This video is for my colleague Lawless Caporelli with Literary Gladiators and everyone else, and to all my colleagues back in New Jersey. For whatever losses you go through, my sorrow goes out to you and your families. I understand there's a lot of privacy that shouldn't be ruffled with. But looking at the stories I've been hearing on the news and other media outlets, I will actually speak to my partner in crime, Lawless, directly on this. Over the years, we've been dealing with a lot of ridicule and a lot of manipulation. You may not have heard this, but there have been histories of blackmail by misusing ADAs on their message boards and treating them like they belong in a hazing ritual. If you haven't heard this, I want you to hear it from me. If you're disgusted by this behavior, you've come to the right place at exactly the right time, and for the right reasons and the circumstances that have to be in your favor and the settings you work with. If you haven't heard it from anyone, I want you to hear it from me. That type of language and behavior has no place here in New Jersey, has no place here down in Roanoke, Virginia, has no place anywhere around the world. You should not only be disgusted, not as an armed citizen / a stringer that helps with law enforcement and also news reporter and media outlets by working the video camera, you should also be embarrassed as a human being. We need to think about what's happening in our community and what's happening here in Roanoke, Virginia, not just in South Jersey. We have an opportunity to really look at what's happening in America. The riots happening all over the coast. We need to understand is that we can be better than those people. And that bad language has no place here. And we need to eliminate that bad behavior, regardless of what degree of evil it brings to the table. It is equally worthless and is unacceptable to everyone with armed citizens and stringers at IACRA, the Institution of Armed Citizens, and their regional academies. One of the reasons why I bring this topic up to you is the amount of a lot of grand feedback we've been receiving by people the last 12, 13 years. Feedback so amazing, we need to put that in our inventory. And all the bad feedback used as a learning experience. One of the reasons why I'm bringing this topic up to you, Lawless, we've got so much to be worried about. Our vulnerabilities can never be exploited. They cannot mess around with what our private information is about. And people who ignore the saying no means no, shame on you. One of the reasons I bring this up is the amount of feedback we received from some of the people we worked with over the years. Let's look at that as a diversity. And that power in the diversity can safeguard our values from being jeopardized. Nobody can mess around with what our personalities are like and get away with it. We've received tons of feedback, not only in Yale, but in Roanoke, Virginia as well. We would be tone deaf and blind we would be pepper blinded and deaf and tone deaf not to think about the hazing rituals that are happening all over the world, the Southeast, Northwest, and everywhere around the country. We need to think about those victims and worry less about our inconveniences. Nobody can start exploiting our values if our inconveniences take advantage over our character. So I would tell your colleagues, Lawless, and I would tell you better tell your colleagues that you're socializing with, you need to listen to my message. If you can't use sensitivity on people, regardless of gender or background, with dignity and respect, they need to get out. If you can't show sensitivity to elders, regardless of their military background, they need to get out and be locked up. If you can't treat somebody's conditions or their privacy with dignity and respect, they need to get out and go to federal prison for life. And if people start discriminating our courage because we believe we have different guidelines than they do, and they start antagonizing them with their privilege, they need to get out. Reach for your phones. Just don't be texting them. I hope that people understand this is how we need to look at ourselves. Look in the mirror. Look at what we can do for a living. What changes we can make. What sacrifices we have to use to our advantage. Look at all parties involved, not just one over the other. We need all parties involved to really look at ourselves and show what courage we have in our hearts, and the courage of understanding and emphasis of what urgent character and boundaries we need to look at. So if any violator starts messing around and starts using us as objects, tell them, get out.